Now, thousands of people have gathered in Istanbul to protest Israeli security measures at the Al-Aqsa mosque to show support for Palestine. The rally is being held in Yeni Kapı with an aim to attract the attention of the international community. The demonstrations come 2 weeks after 2 weeks of tensions in occupied East Jerusalem, where Muslim worshippers have protested the installation of metal detectors and other security measures at the mosque following a fatal shooting. Well, Israel states the measures were needed after that shooting, and the detectors were removed on Friday in response to protests in the region. Well, Hassan Imran is the director of the Asia Middle East Forum and joins us now for more. Hassan Imran, thank you for coming in. So, why do you think it's so important to have this gathering, this show of solidarity in somewhere like Istanbul?
First of all, thank you for your invitation. It is very important to continue doing these activities. It is not a first activity in Turkey in support of Palestine, and it is very important that these activities continue not on the government level, but also from the civil society, like in today. These activities give a very clear message that the issue of Palestine and the cause of protecting international law application in Palestine is an internal matter in Turkey, not just a matter of foreign policy. This is very important. Highlighting this issue cannot be done without making more people activities, more civil society-oriented activities like this. These activities push for more isolation of Israel, push for more momentum for the BDS campaign, for the boycott of Israel, and give a very clear message to the Israelis that you cannot mess up and you cannot violate international law and go unpunished.
You do say that, but they are constantly in violation of international law with the building of settlements, the installation of these security measures. Apart from the anger of civil society and the anger of groups like yourselves and other groups around the world, how do you actually get the Israelis to either come to the negotiating table or to stop violating the law?
The negotiations has been taking place since 20 years almost, and the Israelis have listened to nothing of this. Like the Oslo Accords have been signed in 1993, and 5 or 7 years before that there were negotiations between the PLO and the Israelis, and until the very moment there is nothing that has been achieved. Palestine is shrinking, you cannot see it on the map. Gaza is suffering all kinds of suffering. The UN is saying it cannot be suitable for living, for like any aspect of life in 5 years from now. All this is happening and all this is increasing without the Israelis listening to anything the Palestinian side is asking. So negotiations have proved to be, unfortunately, the Israelis have not shown any interest in the negotiations. So what could be done is pushing the governments like in Turkey, democratic governments like in Turkey, like Malaysia, like other governments. If the civil society moves and asks their government to take Israel to the international courts, to the ICC, to other courts, if they activate something called in international law, the universal jurisdiction, where Israeli war criminals can be brought to justice in those local courts or in the international courts, there can be something done.
And that could be taking them to the ICC. I mean, do you see that as being a realistic prospect? There are, of course, the Turkish president was quite vocal recently about the Al-Aqsa mosque and perhaps had some say in Netanyahu removing those security measures. But these international institutions, Israel has had a history of just ignoring them.
We have a very clear example and a very successful one in Africa, in South Africa. Nelson Mandela and the South Africans continued fighting for like decades for their own rights. They worked very well and very hard on isolating the apartheid regime. Now we have one more apartheid regime in the world, and it is located there in Palestine. Israel is establishing a very clear apartheid regime against the Palestinians. And the same South African experience can be, I don't say copied in Palestine, but we can learn much from the South African experience. We can work on isolating Israel and the Israeli government for its own war crimes and its own grave violations of international law. We can push for more BDS movement. But this movement, for the time being, is just a civil society movement. We need more efforts from governments, and governments in democratic countries are supposed to listen to their own people. So such activities remind the governments and give more, let's say, pressure on any government that we need more actions against the Israeli government. You need to do more, to boycott more, to push for more isolation of Israel until it abides by international law like any country in this world.
Okay, Hassan Imran for the Asia Middle East Forum. We thank you for your time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.